Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy.
What's up, my people? It's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday show. Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today. Today, our badass guest is Josh Jakub, Navy SEAL, Petty Officer First Class, 9 years of service. He's the men's director for American Warrior Association, and you can catch them on Facebook and Instagram. To take a deeper dive, go check out awa-usa.org. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I can't take all the credit for founding it, but I am a part of it, so I appreciate that, though.
Shaq, well, we'll dig into that, So before we even get started on American Warrior Association, I want to get into a little bit of your transition because a lot of people ask, once they find out you're special operator, they're really interested in how do you separate that from now becoming a civilian and how do you make sense of life afterwards? It's a very, very difficult thing for a lot of guys to do. Some find it pretty easy, but most seem to struggle with it. You want to talk about your transition?
Yeah, so my transition was, I thought it was going to be super smooth, obviously. Team guy getting out into the world, I'm going to crush this just like I've done everything else. But I was just blindsided, man. Got out with the intent to play music and songwrite, right? So the biggest place to do that in the world is Nashville, Tennessee. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out. I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm going to start songwriting. I was already songwriting with people, already, and playing guitar. I was the guy that brought a guitar to every deployment, every, workup. I had the guitar, and it was just the campfire, the beers, and it was just so much fun. I was like, I want to do this and get paid for it, So my transition, I left straight from sniper school as an instructor. So I was already kind of outside the flagpole a little bit. So I kind of had that somewhat transition. I was from Indiana. Sniper school was in Indiana, so I was close to home. It felt like I was already out, kind of deal. So got out in May of 2020, right when COVID hit. I mean, like smack dab, nothing was open, couldn't do anything. Made a decision that I wasn't going to work for a whole year. I was just going to go back to school, get BAH. It was going to pay for my living plus all my savings, I'd gotten from the military. And once I got here, I kind of realized that it was a lot harder than I thought. I don't think I did my research. I'm not a big research guy anyway, but got here and I was like, okay, this is super hard. Like I'm way outnumbered in people that have been doing this for 10 years, so obviously I had connections, and then I never wanted to use the SEAL card, right? Like that's the big thing. It's like, use the SEAL card, you'll get this, you'll get that. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted people to like my music because it was good, not because I was a SEAL, right? So,
well, it also doesn't cross over like, hey, I'm a Navy SEAL,
yeah.
So I'm going to be, like this is going to open the door to the music community.
Yeah, those two things don't mix. It's like, I don't know a whole lot of SEALs that can sing. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go into this blind. We'll see what happens, And I was like, if I run out of money, that's when I'll quit, right? Well, I mean, that happened later on. We'll get to that part. But I started playing music and just songwriting with as many people as I could. But it was so slow because it was COVID and I wasn't meeting anybody. Nothing was open. I couldn't go out, couldn't network, couldn't meet people. I just had like my little core people that I'd already met, from years past with that. But the transition just kind of took a downslope after I graduated school. I went to school for about a year and maybe about a year and a semester, finished my bachelor's. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start playing out, getting more comfortable. And I think being in the teams, I was such a perfectionist at that point that like, I put so much pressure on myself to play on stage. It's like, I don't want to mess up guitar. I don't want to forget the lyrics. And I would put so much pressure on myself that I would forget the lyrics. And I'm like, I wrote these songs. Like I know them by heart, but I would get up there and be so nervous for some reason. Like going on, out the door to go to a village. Like I wasn't nervous for that. I was so much more nervous to play on stage than I ever was, in the teams. And it just it hindered me a lot. And, I kind of slowly stopped doing music because I was always scared of it kind of deal. And then I was like, okay, well, COVID stopped and I was like, I'm gonna start networking more. And that transition from COVID to full party life in Nashville. I don't know if you've ever been to Nashville, Tennessee, but it is 24/7. I mean, it's wild at times, and I just got swept up in that world, man. And I think during that time, a lot of my buddies, they were just like, "Man, you look so happy. It looks like you're doing so much cool stuff. You're meeting all these people." And I was like, "Yes, it was cool, but it was one of the saddest times of my life, honestly. Like,
Mm.
I was drinking 7 days a week, um, started doing drugs, and like, not a lot of people know that, but like, I was doing drugs all the time and drinking all the time, and I would just like wake up, do it all over again. I was just like, that was the rock star lifestyle that I was trying to do, and I was just like, you know what? This isn't me. This is 100% not me. I grew up in southern Indiana, out in the woods, like riding four-wheelers and dirt bikes and just having bonfires and like being a down home person. Now I'm in this big city trying to run around and like put myself in these networks of these people who are, already made it and they're living this lavish lifestyle. And me trying to keep up with that, one, it hurt my body, it hurt my health, and then two, it hurt my finances. Like I was blowing through all my money, and I got down and I haven't told very many people this ever, but like I got down to like $400 at one point, and I was just like, I can't live right now. Like I can't afford to live in this city, let alone continue this lifestyle. Like, what am I doing? I have no purpose. I wasn't doing music anymore because I was scared of it, but I didn't know what other job I wanted to do. I guess I was indecisive with that, but at one point I hit rock bottom, and it was a really sad time to one, I didn't have a direction. I had no plan. I had no idea what to do. And that's kind of what led me to, the nonprofit world, with all that. But it was a really dark time. I think it comes down to purpose. Like, what is your purpose? And I think a lot of guys, when they get out, they have a plan. But what if that plan doesn't work? Then what is your purpose at the end of the day? What is your identity at that point? If your identity is, well, I'm just a former SEAL, and my identity is the only one I want is to be a country music singer, and it doesn't work out, then what do you have? Because you're not a SEAL anymore, and you're also not doing what you intended to do. So there was something that was missing at that point, and it took quite a few years to find that, but um, that segues into the whole nonprofit world. But
Yeah, so we'll get into that, and I appreciate you being so vulnerable and honest about this stuff because a lot of guys don't really dig deep into, how hard it is. What you said, this purpose. So it's very difficult because what we find is that we're driven to go, particularly you and I, into the SEAL teams because we're passionate. We have that purpose. Like it's all encompassing, and it is a job, so it's all encompassing. You rarely find that anywhere else. You can find that in, singer-songwriter if that's your passion. But again, you're going all in and you're 100%. It's so hard if it doesn't work out. What do you do? Where's your meaning and purpose? And that's why I always tell guys when they're getting out, if you figure out what your career path is going to be, that's one thing, and you consider that a job. But get involved with an organization. You don't have to start one, but get involved with something to give you purpose. It'll springboard you into your purpose and mission again until you figure out really what's going to ground you and land you on your feet, which I had to do the same thing, but that's for another time and topic. So you got into the charity world. How long did it take you before you hit rock bottom, that you decided to reach out to teammates and say, hey, I'm struggling, or I need some help, or I need something?
I mean, that took a while. And, I got out in 2020. I went to this nonprofit in 2022. So it was about 2 years of like grinding. But that whole time, I mean, I didn't tell anybody. It wasn't till, and still to this day, I don't know, some guy told me about this nonprofit, and I ended up going to their website, filling an application, and then ended up going on a trip. Um, but that whole time, like no one, everyone thought I was living the best life, right? They were like, "You're doing all this, you're doing all that, you're having so much fun." I was like, "It's not, promise you." But it wasn't until I went on that trip. It was a week long. We got there Monday, came back Friday, and I got back and I was like, you know what? If I felt this and I wasn't showing it, how many of my other buddies are feeling the same way right now that are out, or even if they're in, that are feeling the same way? So then that's when I started reaching out and I started telling guys. I was just like, hey, I know you didn't ask, but I was not okay. And I want you to know that, because that's the true me at my core. That's my soul. I want you to know that, like, if there's something that you're going through or you're not feeling you have purpose or whatever it may be, like, talk to me. I'm always here. You know what I mean? So it took about 2 years of grinding, hitting rock bottom eventually, and then being like, okay, pull myself back up and like reaching out to my buddies at that point. So it was a
Mm,
while.
that's a long time, man. 2 years is a long time to feel like shit and struggle.
Yeah.
No question about it. Yeah. And to be able to talk to you on the back end of it and know that you're in a better place and you've got peace and you're happy. Yeah. That's fired up, man. You keep telling that story because you're gonna get people out of their shells and they're gonna be like, whoa, okay, Josh felt like this. Now it's my turn to step up and be a man and talk about it. So
And it's
charity
that whole,
stuff.
yeah, charity stuff. It's the cliche, right? It's like it's okay to not be okay kind of thing, but it really is. Like everybody is going through something. It doesn't have to be from service. It could be from your home life. It could be something from childhood that just keeps creeping back up on you. It could be anything, but it just
Yeah.
takes you stepping out of your shell, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny how when you say that because when I was out, guys apparently thought that I was just living this awesome lifestyle, making boatloads of money, and I'm like, you don't really understand the definition of charity, do you? Like, you can't really make boatloads of money, especially when you're a mom and pop shop charity. There isn't boatloads of money to be had, and even if so, you couldn't take it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm grinding, and I was grinding, but once they started to get that idea, they're like, oh man. I guess charity. We used to always make the joke like charities are for wimps, like go get a real job or whatever. Now guys are like, I don't want your job, dude. That's crazy.
It's so funny you say that because like I never in a million years thought I'd work for a nonprofit. Like in movies, they make it seem like it's gonna go save the penguins or whatever. But I'm like, it's an actual good thing. Like it really is. And like I said, I never thought I would ever be in this world. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, I thought it was just a money laundering scheme for all these people. But I'm like,
Yeah,
they actually save lives, and I'm happy to do it. So,
yeah, man.
and it's not a money laundering scheme, so we can just put that in there. So,
No, not at all. There are a few out there, but the majority of them are trying to do the right thing and help. And it's great that there's so many organizations now. I mean, there's tons, and that's why I always say, like, if you see a veteran that's struggling, tell them to go look online in their local area because there's guaranteed help everywhere.
yeah.
There's not a lack of help these days. It's a lack of wanting to get off your ass and do something about it to get help. But there's plenty of help out there. So let's get into yours, man. What do you guys do? So talk to me about how you got involved and then what do you do?
So we're called American Warrior Association, founded in 2018, partial by a guy named Will Spencer. He was a Master Chief on the West Coast,
I know
team
Will.
guy. Yeah. So
Yep.
Will and a couple guys founded this back in, I believe it was December of 2018. But they just had the goal that like we just want to get like-minded people together and like share their stories, and then also like share a little bit of like word from the Bible and all that kind of stuff, and just get into the faith. So we are a faith-based organization based out of Fort Worth, Texas. But in 2022, like I said, I went on a program, and that week just changed my life. Uh, I brought up the Indiana thing earlier, and while I was out there, I had a goal. I had a plan. I was like, you know what? This week I'm gonna find Indiana Josh. That's what I want to find because that kid growing up was the happiest I ever was. Right? That was like truly me at my core. And I go out there and I told all the guys. I mean, I had never met these guys, but I told them all, like, I'm here to find Indiana Josh. Like, I want to be happy again. I want to feel peace. I want to feel this, and take it on for the rest of my life. And that week went by, got back into my faith. I grew up in Catholic church originally, and then I ended up going to a couple other ones after my parents divorced, and I think I was around 10 years old, but very religious going into the military. And then once I got to the teams, it kind of faded away, right? I don't know if it was the culture. I talked about a little bit of the toxicity that I found in the SEAL teams, and I just kind of strayed away from my faith. And I think I was trying to do everything on my own, right? And rely on my brothers instead of, relying on God's plan kind of deal. And after that week, it all came back to me, right? I was like, okay, I found him. This is Indiana Josh again. This is me putting my pride aside, putting my plan aside, and being like, okay, what is God's plan for me? Like, what does He want me to do in life? And just to sit back and to feel that peace, I was like, you know what? I love this. I want everybody to feel this. So that's why I said I was reaching out to all my buddies and trying to get them to come on the program. And that was probably in July of 2022. And I was doing pretty good. Started to backslide a little bit, as the end of the year. And I get a random call one day in probably November, and they were like, "Hey, we have people come back and volunteer on these programs. Would you be interested in that?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And they go, "Well, would you like to actually run the program? Because our men's coordinator stepped away from the program to do some other things." And I was like, "I mean, I'm not ready for that, but can I bring someone with me?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I ended up reaching out to a guy that was on my program that I went with, and I just met him. He was in the Air Force, and I called him. I was like, "Hey, would you want to run this trip with me?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely." So we ended up going up there and leading a program of something we had just, gone through, and I loved it so much that first time. We ended up doing it in January as well. So I did 2 months in a row. And then in February, they were like, "Hey, would you want a position here?" I said, "Absolutely." And it was just something that was just, I didn't expect. So it felt right. I think it was just, this is God's plan. I put everything in his hands. I was like, "Lead me, like where do you want me to go?" And I think it was just one of those things that just clicked. And I'm a huge, huge meant to be person. Like everything is meant to be in my life. And that's only if you put everything into his hands, and like it will all come to you, exactly when you need it. So ended up coming on board full time in February of 2023. And I was a men's coordinator for about a year. And then the actual coordinator at the time, he stepped away. Or, I'm sorry, the director at the time stepped away. So then I became the men's director. So um, from 2023 February till now, I've kind of built a team of about 8 of us. So I've about 7 guys that help me run the trips, because we run about 20 trips a year. We go to a ranch in California called Rankin Ranch, 31,000 acres, working cattle ranch. We spend a week out there. We have a ranch in Colorado as well, 23,000 acres with horses, cattle, everything. So it's amazing to go out there and just take men, put them out in the middle of the mountains, take their phone away from them by taking the Wi-Fi away, so there's no service out there, and just letting them be with their thoughts. And I think that's a thing that we tend to not do, especially in our day-to-day life, right? Society is all based on our phone. Like if you check your phone all day long and you get out there, it's like, "Oh, what do I do now?" Like I don't have a phone to check. I guess I can look at my pictures, that I've taken, and after that you get bored. So it just puts you with your own thoughts and kind of brings you back to how we are as men. Like we're supposed to be out in the wilderness. We're supposed to be, on God's green earth to just embellish, with his beauty. And I think it takes them to a place that they haven't been probably since they were a kid. And that's why, I bring up the Indiana Josh again. It's like back then I didn't have a cell phone, when I was growing up. I ran around the woods and, threw rocks at trees. Like I want to be that person again, because that's happiness, man. It really is. So, uh, but we leave on Monday, get there to the ranch. We have a chef cooks for us all week, so 3 meals a day, and we leave on Friday. And it's based off a curriculum that we kind of set up. I'm no preacher by any means, but we do share the word. But it's for everyone. It's for the person that has been going to church their whole life. It's for the person that they're skeptical on religion, right? So it's open to everybody. And I've had people come out there like, "Hey, end of the week they hand me back the books. They're like, I'm not going to read this Bible because I don't believe in it still, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come out here, and like, even if it planted a seed, you don't know, 10 years later they might be like, you know what, maybe I should read into this a little bit." But I tell all my guys that come out there, I'm like, "Hey, this is first and foremost a week for you to just find some peace, to take a breath of fresh air for once, and to just put everything aside and be like, hey, you know what is lacking in my life? What do I want more? And what are my priorities in life? If it's my family or being a better father, work on it this week. Come up with a plan for when you get home. Or, if it's to just take a break, that way you can go back to your job, not complacent. I tell the first responders a lot that come out, the police officers, the SWAT guys, I'm like, you know what? Complacency kills. And like I've seen that firsthand, on deployments. It's like if you're not fully checked in, you're not going to be able to do your job 100%. So take this week, take a breath of fresh air, and that way you can go back, with complacency completely eradicated, hopefully, but um, with these trips, it's just everybody that sits around the fire, and we have campfires every night. We sit out there, look at the stars, and it's just guys talk. And I tell them, you can talk if you want to. If you don't want to talk, that's up to you, man. I was like, but the one regret I had from my first trip was I didn't share enough. I didn't share enough of the stuff that I had gone through. So I tell them every single time, like, just don't leave with that regret. That's all I ask. You're not probably going to see these people again. Hopefully you do. Hopefully we create a community where these guys are seeing other people, but just get everything out they need to get out. This is the place to do it, man. Like it truly is. So.
That's amazing. Like you said about planting seeds, I think that's super important. That goes in every way, shape, or form. Like, hey, man, you should probably get in the gym today, and it's like, yeah, I don't feel like it today. But you just, your friend that said that in your head, and you're like, man, I'm kind of punching myself that I didn't go to the gym today. It's the same thing with like, did you talk to a friend or a teammate today? Because it fills your cup just to talk to them. Did you hear any word about God? I'm not a believer right now. I'm not saying that I am a Christian. I'm a believer, but in general, like, hey, I'm not a believer. I'm not interested. And then it resonates with you over time. And they'll always bring it back to that focal point of when they heard the first word and they're like, yep. We're stubborn. So it takes us a long time to get there. Certain guys, me particularly. And I love that it's all in nature, that you get to be communal, that you don't have electronics to block you. And, huge thing to doing the first responder side, because like when you said being locked in on deployment, I mean, no better place. How do you not get locked in on deployment? You have no issues there. You don't have home life. You don't have all that stuff. You're just there in one focal point. Everybody's in the same mission for one thing, right? Imagine being a SWAT, an EMS, a firefighter who has to be on deployment every day right next door to their house. I can't fathom that, because there's the switch for them is different from the switch from us. And so
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. But to be able to shut all that down, bring them out in nature, it's not about going to the bar. It's not about doing anything. It's just purely about getting out in nature and talking about things. Well, now I'm talking like I run your organization. So let's dig into a little bit more of what you do. Like, how does it work? Somebody can go sign up online. Just walk me through the process of, I want to go. I'm a veteran or first responder. How do I get in? And then what's the process throughout the whole week?
So our process is you go to our website, awatechusa.org. There's the application link. You just type it in, fill out all your information. If you're military or veteran, you'll type in obviously what your job is, and then there's a place to upload a DD-214. If you're separated, retired, whatever it may be. First responders, you don't have to do that, obviously, but we take, on the men's side, we take military, veterans, and all first responders. And then we also have a full women's side that goes as well. They run about 20 trips a year too. So that includes military, veterans, and first responders, plus spouses. So if your wife wanted to go and she never served in anything, she's able to go on that, on our women's program, which is the exact same thing. Completely free week. We pay for your flight. I believe it's up to $650 that will pay for your flight to get there. We'll pay for the food the whole week, all the horseback riding, whatever event we do, it's all paid for. So you shouldn't have to spend a dollar going out for this entire week. When you go out there, obviously it's your PTO time or whatever it may be that you're using for it, or but it's completely free. But going through that, once you get the application, you'll get an email from somebody. They'll set up a little interview just to hear your story. Hey, what's your background? Just get to know you a little bit, and then we'll try to place you in a program that fits your needs, right? So a lot of these programs, we try to mix everything. We have first responders, we have Coast Guard, we have Army, we have, a SWAT guy from Dallas or whatever it may be. Having all those people into one, they can hear each other's stories, because there's different experiences with every single, branch that's out there, or even the first responder world to the military side. I learned so much talking to the firefighters and talking to the police officers that I have, of like, man, you guys go through this every day. And like you said, man, it's like, how do you turn that light switch off every day? You go on deployment for 7 months, you turn it on. When you get home, you turn it off. They turn it on when they go to work. They turn it off when they come home for lunch. They turn it back on. And like, you're going to forget at some point to turn that light switch back off. And it's usually when you get home, that light switch stays on all night long. And that's why there's, bad sleep habits of our first responders, because they just, they're always on. It's a hypervigilance, and it's really tough. And we always talk about like the decompression stops on the way back from deployments. Like, yeah, you stop for 2 days. It gives you 2 days to like turn off your light switch. That way, you can go back home, go to Chick's Oyster Bar, go to the Shore Club, whatever it may be, and like hang out. Right? That's you like decompressing. But for these guys, it's every single day. And I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I don't understand how some of these guys do it. And I've talked to a lot of guys in every field, but some that really stick out to me are like the ICAC guys, the internet crimes against children. It's like you have children at home. You're going to work dealing with this stuff all day, and then you have to go home to your own 3-year-old. It's like I don't understand how you turn that off. So that's what our goal is, with this program. It's like, okay, there is faith in humanity. There still is, because God loves us all. So if we go through this with a mindset of there is hope, even though there is evil in this world, like I think we can do a lot better job, in our own lives, especially in our home lives, with all these guys. So, yeah, the process is back to it. Sorry, I get sidetracked, but
Bring it.
fill out the application, you do your little interview. We'll place you in a program, and then you're set up. We'll get your flight taken care of. You kind of pick which month works for you. We usually run about 2 a month. Sometimes 3, but once you're in that, you'll start getting emails, gear lists, all that kind of stuff, info, weather, and all that, and then we'll put you in a group chat. We started using GroupMe just because it keeps guys, doesn't flood their inbox, because what I found is a lot of these guys, once they get back from these trips, I mean, they've made brothers for life, right? So these guys will connect with each other, and I've seen it. I've had guys come out there, and really good buddy of mine, he came out, shows up at the airport. Once we met him, he's like, I didn't want to be here. My wife signed me up. I don't need this. This is stupid. Blah blah blah. End of the week, he was the crowd favorite. Loved everyone. The group chat on the way back, he was just always being super supportive of all these guys, like praying for these guys in the group chat and this and that. And it was amazing to see these guys, one, be vulnerable, and then two, create lifelong friends in a place that they didn't think they would be, right? And I always equate it to like kids. If you take a bunch of little boys, put them in a room with a bunch of toys in the beginning of the day, they're playing by themselves, they're not sharing. But by the end of the day, they don't want to leave because they've made friends. That's
Yep.
how I see our programs go. It's pretty amazing because it's bringing us back to who we truly were, man. It's incredible. I just absolutely love it. So,
How many people per class?
so we usually run at least 7, but we'll have up to about 14 guys
Wow.
per program. So they call them the Warriors Refuge program. It could be anywhere from, like I said, 7 to 14. And with that, you'll usually have either myself or one of my guys leading the program, and then there'll be a couple volunteers that have been on the program before to just help out and just kind of be an ear for those guys if they need it throughout the week. That way, it's not all put on the leader, because we want to give everybody the absolute one-on-one attention that they deserve if they need it, and we want to facilitate that the best we can. So there usually be at least 2 to 3 guys that'll be an ear no matter what. But what we usually find is, these guys will kind of team up with somebody on the trip, and then, they'll go out and talk and just share everything. Because, some guys, they don't want to talk in front of, 10 guys. Some guys just want to talk in front of one person, and that's a complete option that we have. So,
Yeah. Well, it's like that whole joke of you don't know
Yeah.
what I'm feeling. It's like, really? I think we're all in the same boat. But
Yeah.
and you got swim buddies pairing up. So is it obviously you have a set schedule of like activities that you're going to do throughout the week, but is there downtime as well where you can kind of do your own thing, just be out in nature, or is it all
Yep.
pre-planned?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have usually in the morning we'll have breakfast. Everybody will eat together, big round table, and then after that we will usually either do horseback riding or we'll go hiking, something like that. Whether it's fishing up in Colorado or just the horseback riding, but we do a couple long hikes. So usually Tuesday is our horseback riding. We'll have lunch, and then we'll usually talk at the end of the day. But we usually have about 3 to 4 hours of downtime for guys if they want to go out and hike by themselves. If they want to go sit under a tree up in the mountains, I mean, they have unlimited area they can hike or so. We have a curriculum. We give them a couple books. give you t-shirts, things like that. But when you get out there, the curriculum's set up in days, right? We set them up into sessions per day. And it's not like a homework book. It's not something you have to write in. It's the book is yours to keep forever. I still have mine from the first time I went on my program because it's amazing to see what you write when you're super down. And then once you come up and you're like, okay, I'm feeling good, you go back and look at that. It's like, this guy was lost. This guy didn't know what was going on in life. So to see the progression of yourself is pretty amazing. So we give them that book and give them the opportunity to write in that. But our first session, we'll talk about identity. Like, tell me who you are, right? Tell me exactly who you see yourself as. Like, how do people see you out in life? And then we start to go into kind of our bread and butter of our program. And this is something that I learned with this nonprofit, this organization, was the term moral injury. I don't know if you've ever dove into moral injury at all, but it's the brother to like PTSD, whichever one you want to call it. But it's something that is a psychological, emotional, or spiritual, you know, something that's gone against your moral values or your beliefs, right? It's something you've had exposure to or been participation in. So it covers more of a broad spectrum, right? I feel like PTSD, it's one of those things, like, it's fear based. It's something that you have gone through personally, and now it leads to, hypervigilance or a decrease in your trust in the world, right? But that moral injury, it's a lot of times what I see is it's something we've been witness to, right? So, and I see it a lot in the first responder world, right? They're called after the event happens, so they show up, and there's an infant that's been hurt. It's just how could humanity do this to such an innocent, child, and that sticks with them for a long time. Or they weren't able to save somebody during an active shooter, or whatever it may be. That's that thing of like, how do you get over that? It's not necessarily survivor's guilt, but it's something that's like, how would God let somebody do this to another person? So um, we dive all into that. We dive into the symptoms of that, and it tends to kind of set the stage for how the week is going to go, right? And like I said, guys can talk about it; they don't have to talk about it. But I really want them to think about it. I really want them to, okay, is this thing that I can't sleep over because of something that I've gone through, or is it something that I saw? Is it something that has happened to someone else? And it kind of gives them the stage to start planning what avenue they need to start fixing themselves with. And I don't mean fix themselves, but what area do they need to work on better? So then we'll go into a couple other sessions. We talk about everybody's broke. We already know that. Like, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to share these things. Um, and then we start talking about forgiveness, talking about forgiving ourselves and also forgiving others, which, those are two big things in my life. It's like, one, you have to just give love and grace, and then you have to forgive. Like, if we don't forgive, we're only hurting ourselves, and my girlfriend said this the other day. She's like, this is everyone's first time going through life. We will make mistakes. Like, we have to forgive others. They've made mistakes. It's their first time too. It's our first time. We have to forgive ourselves for things. Like, we're not always going to be perfect, and when we go into, talking about learning, I tend to learn more from my mistakes than I do my successes. In a shoot house, you do something wrong, you're definitely not going to do that again because those dudes in the rafters are screaming at you. It's like, okay, I definitely don't want to be that guy again, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, it just, the whole week is spread out into talking about these different sections, and it kind of builds up to our last night, around the fire. And that night is usually the one where it's no regrets, man. Like, go into this, dump everything out, leave it here on this mountain so you can go home a new person. You can go home refreshed, resilient. You can go home with no complacency and having a better plan. And if that plan is to just let go, awesome. Because that's the number one thing that I find with these men is they want control. We all want control. You're a problem solver as per your job, right? Military first responder, you're a problem solver. People call you to help for help. So who do you call now when you have no help, right? It could be our family, it could be God, it could be anything, but you have to call somebody. So come up with a plan. Who's that going to be? continue on through your life. So
It's amazing, man. I tell you. So I've been out since 2010, so I'm like an old fart now, kind of. But I've seen a lot of guys get out, and I just sit there and I kind of assess them. I just watch them to see how they're doing because I'm inquisitive if they can do what I couldn't do. When I got out, I couldn't detach from the teams. It wasn't something where I had to pump my chest and walk around. I've never been that guy because I'm like not a big guy or anything. It was more so like, could they turn on their civilian side again and just run with it and move it forward and make it with grace and ease and that. And so I watched a lot of these guys to see if they could do that. And what I started to realize is that guys don't love themselves at all. And, you can make a joke about it. A lot of guys on the teams, probably active duty guys, would joke about that statement. And it's funny, though, because you get out and you go through this warp transition where you're like, hey, I don't know how to go from this to this and then figure out what looks like in the middle and try to bring everything together. And I ask this question to every single person I meet who I can tell is not there or switched on. And I'm like, do you love yourself? And every time I get the answer, no. And I look at my life and I'm like, when I started, I was 18, like when I went into the military, but before that, I'm a kid. I'm not Republican. I'm Democrat. I'm not, I don't care. I don't even know what love me means, bro. It's like, what's the next day hold? Like, what are we doing today? Are we going to the beach? Are we going to play soccer? What are we doing? And then you go and you find this passion. You go into the SEAL teams, and now you're immediately going into supporting a cause much greater than yourself and doing it for the people to your left and your right. So again, it goes back to doing something for others, not for yourself. So you do that for your 8, 9 years, 20 years, 30 years, you get out. And here is now the time when you can fully understand that, holy cow, I've been on this earth 42 years and I'm now just starting to attack the fact that I love myself. Like, I don't. What does this mean? I can't believe that I don't even care. You push it all off on the job and mission success and helping others. And you're like, man, the reason you're empty inside is because you have never taken a look at yourself. And so to be able to offer a program such as yours, to introduce these guys to like shed the weight, bring it out here to nature and shed the weight, and then pose that question of, do you love yourself? And if not, let's start getting into that. And through God is where I help find my love for myself. And now, because of the fact that I am good with myself, I can be good for others. So I love what you're doing, man. I love that it's for veterans and first responders. I think first responders need it more now than the veteran side of the house, just because it's constant for a career. We get time off, they don't. And, there's a suicide epidemic in every walk of life, whether you wear a uniform or not. And so to be able to have a retreat where you can just go out there and shed it, you're with like-minded people, and you don't have to pay $1. That's another thing, is a lot of guys, like you said yourself, there's a time where I got into financial trouble too, just trying to figure out, like, I got out, didn't have a job, I was supposed to, it didn't work out. I'm like, uh-oh. So being able to go to, an organization where they pay for everything, including the flight. I mean, so you're walking away 100% pro bono to the person going. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us. It's like, if someone's hurting, right? If you're physically hurting, emotionally hurting, whatever it is, it's like the last thing you want to do is spend money, right? That just hurts you even more, right? Now it's a financial burden. So, that's a big selling point that's what drew me to it. I was broke as a joke. And like, when I was like, oh, you'll pay for my flight. Cool. And I get to keep the points. Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, with that, and like you were saying earlier, I want to hit on, it's like, you go into the military at 18, you don't know, you're not an adult yet.
Yeah.
Like, we think we're adults at 18. We're not adults. We don't know anything. So going into that, and then like in the SEAL teams, especially, it's a bubble, man. Like, you're in your own world. You're not a civilian. Like, you go out to the bars, but you are stuck in head up, nose up. I am this. Like, it's your own bubble, right? You go on work trips and all that. It's like, we're untouchable. It's like, you get in the civilian world and it's like, you're not anything, dude. You're sitting in traffic just like everybody else. Like, don't think that you're something else. So
it's funny you pick on that, or you touch on that, because I say this all the time, is that we may be in the room, but we're not in the community. You
Yeah.
know, it's just how the bubble is of the SEAL teams. It's so strange because you look at people. I remember sitting at a bar one time watching these guys standing back to back. One dude bumps into the other guy. It was an accident, spills his beer. They turn around, get into a little argument. We had just gotten back from killing bad guys overseas. And you're like, is that really like that's the apex of what makes you angry? It's just
Yeah.
such a different world for sure. Um, I love
I
that
think it's
statement, man.
pride too. Yeah. I think a lot of it's pride. We are told from day one, this is the elite of the elite. You are like the best, right? Or whatever they say. It's just you're put on a pedestal, and I think it harms your brain. So then when you get out, you need that validation. You're not getting it anymore. You're not
Mm,
getting like you don't have the title anymore. Like you've taken the bird off, and it's like, okay, now what? Where's my validation coming from? I think that's why a lot of guys like they haven't looked at themselves because all they've seen is this big shiny bird forever, and it's like, where's my validation going to come from now?
yeah.
Who's going to tell me that I'm a great, you're a great whatever your job is, right? If you go into the medical world or whatever it is, like you have to have something else, or you're just going to be like, I'm nothing because no one's telling me I'm something anymore. So I think that's where the validation really comes through. And I wanted to hit on the other thing too that we started doing, talking about the first responder world. We especially got into it big in the last couple of years. Actually, Fort Worth was the first city to come on board. Um, Both their chief fire and chief of police, and then the mayor signed off to give them an extra 40 to 48 hours PTO a year just to go on programs like this. So they're able to keep their own time off and then use this just for needs of an organization. It can be ours, it can be any of the other free nonprofits, but they can go out there, find that resiliency that they need. The program that we started was called R3, and it's basically just a template we take to cities, and it gives them the ability to allot funding from the city to these first responders to keep them fresh, right? They saw the need with like the suicide rates and all that, right? So Fort Worth came on board first just because that's where we're based out of. We had a lot of friends, and then it's kind of trickled out from there. So Dallas, they just came on board. I believe DFW, they're their own entity, the airport, so they're going to be coming on board too. And I think it's going to try to spread throughout all Texas first. But our goal, right, is to have this nationwide for every single first responder that's out there, police, fire. They can have this opportunity to go out on a trip once a year and refill their cup. That's such a huge need. And what I've found is, I'll take 10 police officers and firefighters from the same city, and they go out there, and like my biggest fear was like, okay, fire and police, like they butt heads all the time. But yes, the first day is a lot of jokes, a lot of dark humor, and then at the end of the week, it's like, oh, we're brothers. We're doing the same thing, protecting our city. This is like they are so passionate about it, and it's amazing to see because they go back and it's like, hey, when you guys get done with the call, come to the fire station. We'll have coffee. We'll
Yeah.
cook you guys. We'll cook you dinner. It just, man, it's just everybody's just bonding and becoming brothers again. Because at the end of the day, you're a protector. You're here to save lives. You're here to help people, and that there shouldn't be a job title on any of those. I never wanted there to be one anyway with military and first responders, and even in the military, right? I mean, it's like they always talk about Army versus Navy. It's like I don't care, dude. You were doing the same thing I was doing. Like I would never put myself above an infantry guy from the Army. I'd never. Like they helped us on deployment more than I could even fathom. So I never want to put a stigma to that by any means because we're all human at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, same thing. I would never put myself on a pedestal against any other branches. I was the best Navy SEAL that ever existed, but that's different. That's a
That's
different
what I
story.
heard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, right.
I did my research. Yeah.
Was it Google?
Yeah.
Nice. So let me ask you a question. You're running a bunch of classes a year, a bunch of groups through, a lot of people through. That's got to be pricey. Where do you guys need help financially? How are you raising money? What can people do to get behind you?
As far as the financial side, I don't get into it too much. I try to stay with the programs mostly, but I know we do um, like fundraisers throughout the year. So we'll do a spring golf tournament down in Texas. Have a lot of corporate people come out for that. Because what I've found is a lot of these companies, like they want to help. They want to help their first responders, right? And military as well. Like the true American, like they know they're protected by our military. They know they're protected in their cities by the first responders. So they want to give back any way they can. And I've just seen it. I mean, more than I can even fathom of people wanting to help. I mean, you can go on the website, you can donate, you can do that. But there's also like the partnership side, right? So we want to grow for the cause. It's not just for us so we can, have more trips a year. It's for us to help the first responders, help the veterans, help the military guys and women. We want to help. So just the partnerships. If we can have someone on our trip and they're like, I need this in my life too. All right, now I have a whole list of partnerships with other organizations. I'm like, hey, this is an awesome one. Go here. The one of the programs that we send people to a lot or try to partner back and forth with is a share program out of Atlanta. They help with TBI stuff. I've run programs for them and had their guys come up and girls, and just to hear their stories of the connection. Oh, I heard this from somebody that went on your program, and then they went to the share program. Then I heard it, and it just goes back and forth. And the word of mouth is awesome with the partnerships. So we want to partner with everybody we possibly can in this world. That way we can help more people and inevitably like save lives. And I say save lives as I only say it because it did save mine. I'm not saying that I save everybody's life when they come on the program, but this nonprofit truly saved my life and put me back on my feet. So that's the main goal. But we do a big event in September, normally down in Fort Worth. We call it our hoedown, Western style, right? But that's our big auction, silent auction, and just big donation. And on average, it costs around $2,000 to send somebody out on one of these trips, per person. So it is pricey, 100%, but we are just absolutely fortunate to always have donors that come in, last minute. We're struggling to fill a program, and it's we need an extra $2,000. God always puts somebody in there like, hey, I heard about this, I want to help, and they, you can support by $5, you can support by 50 cents. It doesn't matter. Like every single dollar counts, and that was so cliche to say. I can't believe I said that, but it truly is. You know what I mean? So.
Of course it does. Absolutely it does.
Yeah.
You want the masses to donate, whatever level, but you want the masses because that way that many people know that you exist. So if they are struggling or they know somebody that's struggling, now they know where they can send them.
Yeah.
So
And I think there's more veterans than we realize, like I'll talk about this organization, on Instagram or something, and then I get people that I know who they are, but I didn't know their dad was, a Green Beret for 20 years or something. It's cool to see that the network is so lush, of veterans and then also first responders too. Like out in the day-to-day world, you don't know who's a veteran unless they have, their grunt style hat on. But other than that, it's like we don't know everybody, So
yeah,
just having the network of one, putting this out there for people to know, that it does exist. They can send their friends, they can send their dad, they can send their brother, or send themselves. And then I think the big thing that is not hidden with our organization is like the spouses. The wives can go on these programs even if they've never served. Because that's what we found. Like it's so hard for the veteran to go on deployment, but it's also hard for the people staying back, right? The mothers staying back with the kids, it's like they go through a lot too. And to have that on a program where you have women in the military talking about what they're going through, then you have the spouses, so it's both sides. They can really connect and hear each other's side of the story, and it's like, oh, so that's what you're going through, and that's why my husband acted like this, or vice versa. It's really cool to see that and just spread that love and grace all through it. So.
that is huge because when, the focus point for so long has been the active and the veteran and the first responder who's doing the job or just did the job. And all of a sudden they go through a specific program, a treatment, whatever it may be, and they come back and they gain so much ground off of it that they're now operating at a level that they want to be back at. And at first, the wife may be very excited that, oh, I have my husband back, all this stuff. But then there's a point in time where it's like, well, what the hell, dude? Like, we just went through all this stuff and now you're doing awesome. And I'm still in the same mindset that I was when we were going through this stuff. And they get left behind, like you said. So to be able to bring them forward, because, my wife, we didn't know each other when I was in the military. And so I get out. She meets me. The guy who introduced us like told her I was a Navy SEAL, and she's like, "Is that like a Marine?" She had no clue what the military was like on that level, and I was like, "This is gonna be great," but she didn't understand where I was coming from because she didn't have any lead into my backdrop from my former life. And so it's like, how do I adjust off this guy when I don't know what he's going through because I never saw the lead into it? So it's amazing to have that, the communal side for the husband and wife to come together and both air stuff out and understand the other side of what they're going through. I was deployed. You were taking care of the kids. I come back and try to change the schedule now, and you're like, this is my house. So there's a lot of things that need to be adjusted. It's pretty cool. Okay, so donations are key. Obviously, you have your hoedown, and we're going to put this stuff on your site up on our link and on this video. But, besides going to these events that you host, if you can find it in your hearts to donate, you see a lot of team guys and a lot of special ops guys come on this show, and they talk about their cause. And there's a recurring theme here because everybody needs help, and we are doing the best that we can to help. And now there are becoming so many charity organizations that it is getting saturated to the point where it's getting harder to raise funds. So if you can find it in your heart to donate to their group, that would be greatly appreciated. And no size is too big, just so you know. So go ahead and make a donation. We'll put the site up on here, and you can go learn more about them. And again, you can submit yourself or people that you know to this place for their programs to get help. So what else do you want the people to know that they don't know about your organization?
I think we covered most of it. It's just I want everybody to know that like it's if you are or have somebody in mind, like at least just put it out there. It's plant the seed yourself kind of deal. And I think a lot of I know myself, especially back in the day, if I would have watched this, I've been like, yeah, I'm not going to go out there and talk about my feelings. And I want everybody to know, especially I've had a hard time trying to get team guys to come out on these programs. And I hosted one team guy event probably about 2 years ago. Took them up there, went snowmobile, and it was hard. I think the schedules are really tough, and then also just the stigma of the pride, like putting it aside for once. And I tell guys, I'm like, it's you don't have to talk if you don't want to. Just come out and relax. You deserve to be like taken care of for once. You deserve a good meal, a good hot meal, and to not have to worry about anything for the week. So we're just trying to give everybody that avenue. That way they have free reign to kind of make their own plan with it. So that's about it, man. We did just partner up with TTPOA, the SWAT organization. So
Yep.
getting a lot of those guys on board. So if you guys are in the TTPOA realm, then know that you are a partner of us, and we're ready to help as much as we can with all that. But I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, man. Well, we're not finished here because I always like to throw this one on everybody at very last minute because it's always almost like a deer in a headlight. But who is your hero and why?
I would say my hero is probably my grandfather. He was the main reason that I went into the military. Um, I went to college for a couple years, never finished, and then I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So he was in the Air Force for like 4 years, I think, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to follow in his footsteps. And this is a story that not a lot of people know. I didn't know what a SEAL was when I went to the recruiting office. I tried to join the Air Force to drive bulldozers. The recruiter didn't show up one day when I went to take my background check, and there was a Navy guy there in civilian clothes. He's like, well, have you ever thought about doing this? I was like, no chance, man. But I'll read your little brochure and I'll take a free t-shirt. So literally decided I want to be a SEAL right then and there, but started the whole process in depth and all that. But when I got out of boot camp, um, he called me and I was in pre-buds, and he was like, hey, I want you to know I have stage 4 prostate cancer. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound good at all. He's like, no. It's like, I'm going to go through my treatments though. He goes, here's the deal. He's like, if you don't give up and don't quit, he's like, I won't quit either. So going all the way through buds, man, like he was first and foremost my guy that I was like trying to do this for. And like, I wasn't going to break my promise. He definitely was going to break his promise to me as well. So, going through that, it gave me motivation, right? And it's a motivation of something bigger than myself. It wasn't, And like I know people always say it's like I want to serve my country and protect people, and like yes, at the end of the day, like that's my job. But I was doing this to prove to him that hey, I can do anything I set my mind to, you know. And he's still here. He lives up in Kentucky, and I get to go see him quite a bit. And it's one of those things where I needed something. I didn't know what it was, but I think like God put that in my life. It's a meant to be thing, and I gave him our what do they call it, the 8 point, whatever the cover's called that you get in buds. I had Joshua 1:9 verse written in it, you know, all through Hell Week, and it still has a little red string on it, but he like set it on his mantle, and I gave it to him. I was like, hey, I didn't quit, and I'm glad you didn't either. So
That is legendary. That is amazing. You know, I tell people, man, that was powerful, dude. I tell people at times, like, what's your spark in life? Because that's what drives you to go past where you're normally at. Like, you're in high school and all that before, you're never pushed. You're not pushed to a deep degree. And then you all of a sudden show up to Hell Week and you're like, huh, like this is a level that is so different and intense. And if you just showed up because you wanted to wear something, a trident, a helmet, whatever, brown t-shirt, see ya. But there's something that's driving each one of those guys going through the program. Mine was just telling my parents that I wasn't a failure anymore. Yours, talking to your grandpa and saying, we're going to do this together. I've got my deal. I'm dealing with this right now and you're dealing with this, but we're going to do this side by side. And I mean, your stuff that's so powerful. Were you an honor man? I mean, you probably blew through buds with that
I was
motivation.
no, I was not. I was honor man in my boot camp just because I was a starboard watch and I got beat every single night, and they felt bad for me, so everybody voted me honor man. So I ended up getting that. But when I was in buds, man, I was like 170 pounds. I was lanky. Like I wasn't the fastest. I tell everybody this story too. When I went to my first like PST, I showed up with goggles, and the guy's like, "What are those?" And I was like, "Goggles so I can swim." He goes, "You can't wear goggles for this PST test." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How am I gonna see?" I had never opened my eyes underwater until that day, and I passed my PST. I'm like I was not an athlete. I mean, I was an athlete. I ran track and stuff, but like I wasn't anything special. But I think one of those meant to be things, man. It's like I don't know how many we started with. I think it was around 250 in pre-buds or whatever, and like it goes down, you know, with every little checkpoint. But there was 7 of us originals that finished with 292 when we went through, and like for me to be one of those guys, like I wasn't like what it was just I shouldn't have been there, but I was, you know, so it was pretty cool.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's amazing. Well, I mean, of course that you were there. I mean, the last Buds class that was tough was my class. And so
Yeah,
after that, they started doing it online, which is the program that you went through, correct?
yeah.
I'm just
Well,
messing.
they always had the picture of your statue in our online sessions, but
Right. See, this is me
yeah.
glorifying my ego because I've been out so long that I'm such a has-been that I just need to do stuff like this. This is
Yeah.
awesome, man. You know, it's super exciting. I remember when I joined, I met some guys that were 20, 30 years before me, and they didn't look like us. They weren't, you know, they didn't do the whole combat thing, and they weren't worn, torn warriors like you would expect them to be. But they had so much pride in the community, and it was like, because of those men, this is the opportunity that I got to do. And then because of us, so on and so forth, guys keep getting to do this. And it was like just being a part of the chain was the coolest thing ever. The biggest thing that I pulled away from the military community, especially in the SEAL teams, was that the camaraderie of the team. You know, for the people, I collect people. And so for me, I hone in on my brothers. And that's why this show actually exists, because I continue to collect special operators as my own so we can just continue to produce this. But that makes me whole. My family gives me everything that I've ever needed in life. God has provided my family for me, and my wife, who's kept me on track in life. But to talk to a brother every week, it's vital to my health, because we just get each other on a different level. You cannot go through chaos and come out the back end without a brother. And so that's huge. And then for you now to produce this for others, to give them that camaraderie outside of the service, and with different groups, which is super important. It's not just our little bubble, but it is now expanding it to others. It's awesome. I'm definitely going to go through your program. I'm paying for my own route because I don't need help, but I definitely love what you're doing and I want to see it. And we're going to figure out ways to work together in the future and expand your horizons. And we're going to blast this out everywhere, man. Just know that me being out for long enough now, I am a complete 100% civilian. And I am grateful for what you're doing for the veteran and first responder community, brother.
I appreciate it a lot. Also, you're not paying for anything, but I do want to do a SEAL trip. We call it the SO program, Supporting Operators Program. Kind of a play on words, but would love to have you guys out there. I'm going to try to do it every January. Get a bunch of team guys. And we're going to go up to the mountains and just have a week to just hang out, relax, build camaraderie and all that stuff. Because I have a lot of guys who've been out a long time too. You know, it's hard to get everybody together. It really is. And I'm not a big SEAL reunion guy, but I want to do my own, and I want to give guys the opportunity, and we'd love to have you there. Seriously.
Done. Let's roll, man. We're doing it.
Appreciate
Right on. Well, everybody, go check this out right now. You got American Warrior Association. You can check it out online. Check out Indiana Josh on Instagram and Facebook. And
I need to change it. Yeah.
No, it's rad, man. Most importantly, go to awa.usa.org. And if you can, make a donation today to support the cause for veterans and first responders. Brother, thanks for what you're doing. And, you know, keep coming back to the show and telling us updates. And, yeah, we're going to help you.
Would love to, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate this a lot and everything you're doing.
Absolutely, brother. All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Frogman Friday. Long